No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show with Dave Manouk. I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Ezra going to be joining us in a few minutes' time. There was some technical difficulties with Mr. Ginsburg, but we'll be pleased to hopefully welcome him to the program coming up momentarily. Dave M., good to see you. It's been a few days since our last time together, but we got back together in the press box.
We're at the game together today.
I know we were at the game together. We got back together in the press box tonight to watch tonight's Winnipeg Jets 3-2 victory over the Montreal Canadiens. With the victory, the Jets improve on the season to 6 wins, 3 losses, and 1 tie, moving them into a tie for first place in the Central Division, something I don't know that many of us would have said at the 10-game mark prior to the start of the season. But in any event, good seeing you. Nice. What is that? You're wearing a scarf tonight. You're a fancy boy wearing a scarf tonight. I see over there. That's is that the new Manitoba Moose scarf that you're debuting?
I am, in fact, debuting the new Manitoba Moose scarf. Hold on, let me just take it off so folks can see it. Manitoba Moose Hockey Club. I don't generally wear affiliated team stuff, so I'm making a little slight break. This doesn't change my impartiality, folks, but I just giving a little heads up to all the Moose fans out there that the first 3,000 folks who come to the game on November 11th against the Calgary Wranglers, the Flames affiliate. We were the Stockton Heat, now they're the Calgary Wranglers. You get one of these fancy scarves. Nice, keep you a little bit warm in the not really a scarf guy, but hey, you know what? Manitoba Moose scarf. I expect it's going to go probably on the Moose side of the equation. But yeah, so if you're one of the first 3,000 fans in attendance November 11th, you'll be walking away with one of these fancy scarves, and you can be fancy like me.
There you go. He can be a fancy boy just like Dave M. That's actually his nickname, Fancy Boy Manouk, is what we've been calling him for all these years. But in any event, it wasn't what I would describe as a particularly fancy game tonight in downtown Winnipeg. It was a bit ragged through the first 40 minutes. That's the word that I
blame Brian Adams.
Because you think that him performing last night, everybody dancing up a storm, may have impacted the ice surface. Totally makes sense.
Not me. That ice was terrible tonight. It was choppy. Popping was a little sloppy.
There were some blown tires from both Jets players and Montreal Canadiens players, no question. But ragged, as I said, Dave, was the word that I would have used to describe the game. Through the first 40 minutes, and ragged is the way the Montreal Canadiens, for the most part, have to play. They have some nice pieces. But for the most part, we know where the Habs are largely in terms of a bit of a rebuild situation. No one expects them to really be particularly competitive this season, but they're playing hard. They enter 5-4-1. They were entering tonight's contest. With the loss, they dropped down to 5-5-1. So they're certainly not a free space on a bingo card like a team like the Arizona Coyotes or even I'd say the Chicago Blackhawks. But the Chicago Blackhawks are even playing some decent hockey. So Montreal plays. They play hard for Marty St. Louis, their head coach, but they know what they are. They're a little bit bereft in talent. So you sort of saw that a lot tonight. It was a bit of a ragged game. It was a bit of a choppy game. It wasn't particularly fancy or high flying or high scoring, or really wasn't a ton of dynamic skill on display. But the Winnipeg Jets played the game that they needed to play. They stayed within themselves, especially after Montreal. You remember, Montreal had 2 1-goal leads in tonight's game. Yeah. And the Jets didn't get away from it. They stayed with what they needed to do, and obviously were rewarded in overtime. But truthfully, the third period, which was sort of where I wanted to focus, because, the third period, Montreal is content to just get the game into overtime. The Jets improved, I thought, as the game went on after a bit of a blip in the second period where both teams, I thought, weren't anything to write home about.
Yeah, I think the Jets opened up that third period, out shooting them 6-0, and yeah, you're right. It seemed like a tale of two different teams. It felt like Kyle Connor was never, I kept joking throughout the course of the evening that he was going to have to sacrifice a chicken. Then it was like, well, he might have to sacrifice a whole bucket of chicken. And then my last tweet was, he might have to burn down a whole KFC at this point just because.
Hey, let's not get carried away. There's not
Fine.
that many KFCs in the city of Winnipeg. We need every last one of them.
There's no better KFC, as an aside, even though I don't eat it, but there's no better KFC. I love the smell. When you're at McPhillips and Inkster, people who know, people North Enders will know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
When you're at McPhillips and Inkster, they got a Chicken Delight across the street, but the smell is like intoxicating. It drives you absolutely wild, but that's neither here nor there.
Maybe in December I'll do a post-game show from Claudia Sanders' dinner house in Kentucky, of course, not far from where my wife's family is. We can do maybe I can do a show while eating the authentic KFC. Kentucky fried chicken.
That would be good. I'm sure people would enjoy that. Maybe we could have Kyle Connor on.
They definitely want to see me eating chicken and talking at the same time. I don't see how anybody
with like gristle in your teeth. That'd be wonderful. The visuals just sell themselves, Drew.
No question. I think that everybody would absolutely love that. I don't see any downside to that whatsoever. But we talk about KFC and you talk about Kyle Connor because it was actually getting to the point where we're up in the press box and people are almost chuckling at the fact that he just didn't get a goal after so many golden opportunities in regulation, never mind the golden opportunities he's had in so many games prior to tonight, that it just was like, and this is a 3-on-3 goal. So anyone saying, the drought is over, I'm not entirely convinced about that. It's not over. In my books, it's not over till he gets a 5-on-5 goal. You don't apologize for it. You happily take the goal in the ledger on the score sheet, but Kyle Connor will be fully back. Not that he's been poor playing or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. He'll be fully back when he snipes one at 5-on-5.
Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling this will open things up for him. I think that now that he's got that out of the way, he actually scored on a goaltender. I think he'll be feeling good. And as you said, it won't just be a monkey. It's a grill off his back now that he's feeling that he finally got that dealt with. And I'm sure. Look, he's too talented a goal scorer to have this goal really that much more, significant, a period of time. So we were talking about it in the press box, and Ezzy and I were talking about it watching the third period. Like, you just felt like Kyle Connor was due. And so, and I jokingly ended my night of tweeting saying, Manitoba chickens will no longer have to be sacrificed. And I appreciate all the Major League fans who are tweeting at me, joking about sacrificing chickens. But look, you need him to feel good about his game. Well, we got Ezzy. Ezzy's in the house. We're ready to go. Now we've got the triumvirate back. There he is. He had to do a quick detour back home.
Ezra, did we learn a valuable lesson tonight?
Not really. I mean, I just was so excited that Kyle Connor finally scored, boys, that I had to go home and change my pants. So that's why I was late. Had nothing to do with any technical difficulties. I was just so excited that I actually soiled myself.
Oh, geez. Thank you. There you go. That was completely unnecessary. I'd like to apologize on behalf of Illegal Curve, our parent company, and any of our affiliates for Ginsburg's comments right there. We will discipline him for conduct unbecoming after the program ends. He just actually forgot his plug for his computer, in case anybody was really concerned about where Ginsburg was. But yes,
I'm more concerned about people not smashing that like button. Let's go, folks.
There you go. Do what Dave does. You don't want to get Dave M mad. We've already talked about that. You don't want to get the fat. When the fancy boy becomes the Hulk, then it's a real problem. With his scarf, he can use that scarf as a weapon just as easily as he can for anything else. Anyways, good evening to everybody that's joining us. You are watching the Illegal Curve post game show. Drew Mindell, Dave Manouk, and Ezra Ginsburg with you on this Thursday night to talk about the Jets' 3-2 victory over the Montreal Canadiens. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and all the podcasts. And remember, still to come on the post-game show, as we're about to get into the game recap brought to you by our friends at Betway. Still to come, the unique code word of the game that you have to enter in order to be eligible to win some of the great prizes that we have on the Illegal Curve merchandise contest. So stay tuned for that coming up momentarily, a little bit after the Betway game recap, which of course is brought to you by our friends at Betway, one of the most trusted voices in sports betting, both in Canada and all around the world. And of course, the title sponsor here of the Illegal Curve post-game show. Betway is the sports betting app that puts you, the customer, at the forefront with a large selection of betting options in sports, as well as strong promotions and fair odds. What are you waiting for? Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. I see a question here about the contest before we get into it. Does the contest reset each month? It does. Very well observed, Tracy. So you do have to go back in. You do have to re-enter. You have to do some of the tasks that we've told you about. But if you did them last month and you do them again this month, you get bonus entries. So it is to your advantage to go back in, re-log in, do all the things that we've asked you to do in order to get some of those entries. And again, if you did it last month, you do it again this month, you're just going to be, covered in Illegal Curve merchandise contest entry ballots. So be sure to do that. And of course, if you're looking for the link, it's in the show description. It's also on our website, illegalcurve.com. And we'll tell you more about that as the post-game show continues. Let's get into the game recap, gentlemen. The Montreal Canadiens opened the scoring at the 6:43 mark of that first period. It's Nick Suzuki showing off his speed, his 6th of the year assist to Cole Caulfield and David Savard. And I mean, Nick Suzuki is one of those building blocks for the Montreal Canadiens. People have talked about it. If Pierre-Luc Dubois was going to be involved in a trade, Nick Suzuki would be one of those guys the Jets would be, asking for. Obviously, that's a separate issue for another day and time. But Nick Suzuki showing off some of that talent there on that opening goal there, Mr. Ginsburg.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of teams can ask about Suzuki, Drew, but not only is he a building block, he's also their captain. So Nick Suzuki's not going anywhere. I mean, he, as you mentioned, he's a guy that, they're going to hopefully have on their team for, a decade plus, right? And, on this particular goal, I know a lot of people are, criticizing the Jets here, but I mean, look at Suzuki had, 20 or 21 goals. I forget it was last year. 60 plus points on an awful Habs team, right? So, I mean, Suzuki was one of the only bright spots, in addition to Cole Caulfield, especially after Marty St. Louis took over as head coach. So this is just a beautiful individual effort, and he posterizes not only Dylan DeMello, but Connor Hellebuck as well. So, yeah, I mean, it was a beautiful pass by Cole Caulfield, but this is just all speed and then Suzuki driving to the net, right? Like we always talk about, how the Jets need to get to the dirty areas, get into the middle of the ice, the high danger areas, right, Dave? But for me, like, DeMello is a fantastic defenseman. He's just beat badly here by a really good player. So, yeah, I mean, could DeMello have been tighter and could he have done a better job with the defensive coverage? Sure. But you also have to sometimes just say, Nick Suzuki, that's a beautiful goal by a really good player.
Yeah, sometimes you get beat by sometimes you're an elite player to make it to the NHL. There's still more elite players, and this is a case where Nick Suzuki was just if you're flat-footed, as Dylan DeMello was in this situation, Dave, and Nick Suzuki's got a head of speed. Well, there aren't a lot of players who can make that adjustment real quick, especially on the back end, to be able to defend that play. And Nick Suzuki showed it off there with the hard net drive after he beat Cole Caulfield.
Well, the only thing I'd add really, Drew, is the fact that there are so many plays that Dylan DeMello makes that he doesn't get credit for. So you notice the one where he gets burnt and folks are like, well, he looked like a pylon. He did. But as he said, probably a lot of guys end up looking like pylons when Suzuki he's crafty, he's shifty, he's a really smart young hockey player. So you have to sometimes tip your hat at what someone at that elite level is able to do. And yeah, he had a full head of steam, and Dylan DeMello was clear. You could see the way he turned. There was no chance he was going to be able to keep up with Suzuki at that point. So, but there were other instances in the game where DeMello makes the right play in tight defending. And it's one of those things that you take note of it while you're watching it, but he's not going to get credit for it, right? So he makes a beautiful read on a play that could end up like a 2-on-1, 3-on, an odd man rush. Nobody really credits him. Well, we are right now, but a lot of people will lose sight of that because of the one he got burnt on. But I mean, he is a very smart hockey player, but sometimes, you get burnt, and that's just what ended up happening to Dylan DeMello on that play and on Connor Hellebuck as well, who looked otherworldly, against Vegas. And that was just a really nice play by Suzuki to finish it off.
But again, just quickly, Drew, like, what is Hellebuck supposed to do there, right? Like, it's not like he was out of position or anything. Like, was he too deep in his net? I have no idea. I mean, we'd have to ask a goalie. We'd have to ask Wade Flaherty or Kevin Woodley. To me, that's just a goal scorer's goal, boys.
That's just all it was. I mean, it's sometimes there doesn't need to be a ton more analysis. Sometimes it's just a really talented player doing a really talented thing and beating a really talented goaltender while at it. So I mean, and DeMello, to your point, Dave, really did, I thought, bounce back after that play. I mean, and you could see sort of the panic as it sort of happened right below us, where we were stationed in the press box, and you could see the beauty of being up in that level, as you can see the plays developing, and you could see DeMello was in a bad situation. He knew it. Suzuki knew it. Connor Hellbuck probably knew it. Everyone knew it, and Suzuki took advantage. But DeMello, I thought, bounced back after that and had a very solid game. I think there was a play in the third period in particular where maybe Josh Anderson, if I'm not mistaken, had a that
was one I was thinking about. Yeah.
Right, had a dangerous looking opportunity, and Josh Anderson has size on Dylan DeMello. And DeMello had a very good poke check, or a very good stick, to neutralize what looked like it could have been a dangerous opportunity for the Montreal Canadiens late in a tied game. So, as to your point, doesn't get credit for that on the score sheet. But, that was something certainly that I'm sure the players will be able to see, and we definitely noticed as well.
One thing just to add to your point, Drew, before we get to the PLD goal that tied it up, Dylan DeMello was actually second on the Jets in even strength Corsi at 70. Number one, Axel Jonsson-Fjällby.
He had a great game. I mean, again, not a guy who's not going to be on the score sheet, but a guy who was noticeable for all the right reasons for the Winnipeg Jets. Hard on the forecheck. Montreal had trouble controlling him and trouble containing him. And he
shoots
did exactly.
The puck. That's what I like, Drew. He shoots these a shooter, right? Yeah. Like, he's not afraid to shoot. Like, his really good scoring chance was from a good area, that you would call that a high danger chance, right? But he's a guy that's not afraid to, shoot the puck if, he doesn't have any other options or anything like that. So obviously with, Morgan Barron out of the lineup for 4 to 5 weeks here, he's going to get a lot of opportunity because, we were talking on the Saturday show, if Ehlers comes back, it's really between, Jonsson-Fjällby and probably Saku Maanalainen for who would come out of the lineup if the Jets, if everybody else is healthy. So, AJF has done a really good job once again on the fourth line.
Yeah, he absolutely did. I would agree with that. As you mentioned, Pierre-Luc Dubois, he tied the game at the 17:28 mark of the first period. It's a power play goal with Rem Pitlick in the box for hooking Pierre-Luc Dubois, his fourth of the season, assist to Kyle Connor and Sam Gagner. And I sort of felt like this one was Dubois just sort of taking control of the situation. The power play, this was their second power play of the game the Jets had. It wasn't ragged, but there was nobody who was just sort of taking the bull by the horns. And that's what I thought you saw here with Pierre-Luc Dubois. He had time, he had space. He walked in and he just absolutely rifled a shot past Sam Montembeault, who played very well in goal tonight for the Montreal Canadiens. It was largely the only reason I thought that this game got to overtime.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you mentioned taking the bull by the horns. You mentioned space as well, Drew. Like, this just wasn't a little bit of space. Like, David Savard, like, he's a good defenseman, but come on. I mean, like, he's backing up. Pierre-Luc Dubois had a ton of ice. Like, it was almost like he had 20 feet, in front of him, behind him, to the left, to the right. And it was a beautiful shot, right? I don't know if it went off the post, but it was just a really nicely placed wrist shot. And we know that Pierre-Luc Dubois, has a lot of different skills that are on display on the power play, right? Like, he can be net front. He can, do that kind of goal line where he looks like he's going to make a pass and then he comes forehand, backhand, comes out for a shot, right? So he was great tonight. I believe he got the first star and he deserved it, right? Like, the joke heading into this game was, is Pierre-Luc Dubois going to score a goal for the Jets or the Habs? And obviously, he scored a big goal for the Jets in that particular case. And he was good throughout the game. Like, I was telling Dave, you guys were at the Canada Life Center for the first two periods, but we watched the game at Dave's house for the first three, the final period before I had to go home and get my stuff together here. But, he was that line of PLD, Perfetti, and Wheeler. They were buzzing all night. Like, Perfetti, you could definitely see that he's getting more and more confident. Wheeler had a strong game. I thought we'll get into that later. But this line really, I thought, was the best line for the Jets tonight.
Yeah, as I said that as well. I really did like the way they played. And Pierre-Luc Dubois did look like a bit of a man possessed. Maybe he was showing off for his hometown team. I don't know what it was, but he did he draw 2 penalties in the game? I just thought he looked, he wasn't sleepy. There was no real sit back with him. It was an physically engaged Pierre-Luc Dubois, and look, the shot was a rifle. Like he caught the perfect spot. Maybe him and Savard, because it's his best friend, maybe he gave him a little edge there, but it was what the Jets needed, because you're kicking off your homestand. You're not happy with how your team was on the road trip. Even though they got 5 out of the 6 points, what have we heard all week from this coaching staff? 2 days of practice. What did we hear from the players? What did we hear from the coaching staff? They were not one person said, yeah, well, we thought we were actually pretty good. Mm-hmm. Nobody. The consensus was the Jets didn't play well because of Connor Hellebuyck. They got points, but they knew that they were, for the most part, obviously in Arizona, they were okay. But for the most part, they knew that they escaped with 5 out of the 6 points, not because of how they played, but because of their goaltender.
They could have had 2 of 6 points, honestly.
Easily. Absolutely easily. The LA game and the Vegas game. So the Jets knew that they wanted to have a different mindset, and what was one of the comments from head coach Rick Bowness today after the morning skate? We'll be ready to go. And and again, that didn't necessarily mean they were going to score the first goal, but he wanted his team to be ready to go. He wanted his team ready to be, to play. And I thought they were. I thought, like you said, I thought that was the best line, was the Jets' second line. The power play, actually, it's funny, the second power play unit looked phenomenal in that first power play opportunity they had. I thought, they looked like they were going to score the first. Actually, the first unit looked a little disjointed, but I think that the team overall, it felt like the mindset, and I know there was some uncertainty, as you said. Morgan Barron's gone 4 to 5 weeks, so that meant Dominic Toninato drew back in, but Jansen Harkins did take up warm-up skates, so we didn't know who he may, like Mason Appleton has skipped the last couple of practices. So there was
that was my understanding, Dave. Sorry to jump in here, but that was my expectation. If Jansen Harkins was going to go in, it was going to be for Mason Appleton.
Right.
It sounded like
if he was still under the weather.
Right. It was never really confirmed by Rick Bowness, but essentially Harkins took the warm up, and then of course was a scratch. But the reality was that you just felt like, well, how would this team react to what their coach has been saying? Because he's very publicly said, like, I am not happy with the way this went, despite the fact that we are first place in the Central. But, again, is it the right way? And one of the other questions he got asked during his media availability was, I think it was yesterday, was that idea of, like, if you're getting points, but it's not in the manner in which you want to do it, like, how do you kind of bring your team to that reality of what you want? Because if they're having success, even if it's unsustainable, and he's like, well, that's the problem. It's unsustainable. You're not going to be able to have Connor Hellebuyck make 40, 50 saves every single game. So you have to change the manner in which you play. So we've saw it a little bit today against Montreal, and it was a good way to kick off the homestand.
It certainly was a 3-game homestand. The Jets victorious 3-2 tonight in overtime. This is the Betway game recap. We go goal by goal discussing tonight's contest. We say good evening to everybody again. If you're new here, welcome. This is the Illegal Curve post-game show. If you're a regular, nice to see you again. We always appreciate you joining us. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg with you. Montreal takes a lead again at the 4:54 mark of the second period. Kirby Dach, his second of the season, assist to Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki, again, 3 core members of that next wave of Montreal Canadiens. And this is a bit of a fortunate one. Cole Caulfield's shot is blocked, and it doesn't get all the way through to Connor Hellebuyck, and it deflects over to Dach at the side of the net, and he has a wide open net to tuck it into, Ezzy.
Yeah, and you mentioned, these are the young future pieces, current pieces, actually, of the Montreal Canadiens. Like, Kirby Dach is a guy that Dave and I were talking about. Like, he's only, I believe he's only 22 years old. Like, he's really young, and that was his second goal of the year. This to me, it has to be mentioned. Like, leading up to the goal, I mentioned this a lot, and I know, we want to get to the next couple goals here for the Jets, but this to me was sloppy in the neutral zone, right? It was Mason Appleton. I believe it was Adam Lowry to Mason Appleton. Mason Appleton was along the bench. He just doesn't get control of it, kind of bobbles. And then if I remember correctly, he kind of looked like he wanted to stay on the ice and back check there, but then he goes off the ice. So it started with just some sloppy play in the neutral zone where Montreal took possession. Cole Caulfield, as you mentioned, and Nick Suzuki, his shot ends up actually going off of Caulfield's either leg or his behind, right? And then it just goes to Kirby Dach. So again, that was a goal that, it was kind of a calamity of errors there, right? Like, it was just not really good, not really good puck movement or puck management, whatever you want to call it, in the neutral zone. Montreal takes advantage, and then they just get a lucky bounce after Suzuki's shot goes off of Caulfield's leg or whatever. So, Montreal got rewarded there, but at no point at at that point in the game, I don't think anybody was thinking Montreal is in control of this game. I think everybody knew, that the Jets had been the better team up until that point, and obviously we know what happened, and the Jets could have easily had 4 or 5 goals in this game. But look at Suzuki, Caulfield, Doc. The Montreal Canadiens are a respectable team now. Last year, they were a tire fire. This year, they're actually respectable. I thought they actually played pretty well, including Montembeault, even though the Jets controlled possession and high danger chances and everything like that. Suzuki and Caulfield, I mean, these guys are like legitimate playmakers, and they're both, in their early 20s. So nice goal there. But, they were lucky, as far as I'm concerned, to be in the lead at that point in the game.
You mentioned Mason Appleton there, Ezzy, and of course Mason Appleton, who had been playing on the top line with Nikolai Ehlers, of course, being out of the Jets lineup. He got swapped with Sam Gagner to start the game. Gagner got the bump up to play with Scheifele and with Kyle Connor, and they were effective, I thought, for the in the first few minutes of the first period, Dave. And then Gagner's game sort of went a little bit downhill as the game went on, and then in the third period, you saw the line blender come out again, where Rick Bowness sort of juggled things around and Appleton moved back up, which I don't have a problem.
Started overtime, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I don't have a problem with the coach doing that at that point in time, trying to look for a little boost after that second period, which was ragged, as the sort of the word of the day, not the unique code word of the day. Just so we're clear, there, not the unique code word, but that second period was a little ragged. So I thought that was good coaching on Rick Bowness's part to maybe mix things up. He didn't mix up the second line. The second line stayed together because they played well really throughout the entirety of the game, but everything else got mixed up a little bit to try and give the Jets a bit of a boost for the start of the third, and it certainly worked, as the Jets were relatively dominant in the third period, especially to start the third, Dave.
Yeah, I think once that Sam Gagner took that phantom slashing penalty, his whole game went south. I mean,
by the way, how do you get a slashing penalty when 2 guys are cross-checking you? Joel Edmondson, I think it was David Savard, if I'm not mistaken, were both cross-checking him.
Edmondson and Savard are small players. They're not big. They're not big lumberjacks or anything. In front of
petite.
Your goal.
I would use the word petite.
Petite. Yes. Frail. Also, both of them. They're not like 6'4", 240 swinging sticks at you or anything like that.
No, I mean, I like the idea of you mix it up. You're trying to get a spark. That's all you're trying to do. You're trying to get these guys going. And look, Mark Scheifele looked dangerous throughout the course of the game. Kyle Connor had, like we've talked about, I mean, 4 or 5 golden opportunities, grade A chances, high danger chances in front of the net. And I mean, I honestly can't get over how many times you're like, well, that's a goal. I mean, how many times have we sat in the press box together and you sit over and you see the opportunity presenting itself and you're like, well, he's going to score here. Like, I can't imagine how many times I've like looked over at Ez or you, Drew, and I'm like, well, this is a goal. That's a goal. And this year, unlike most, it hasn't been that case. But I mean, there were so many instances of tonight for Kyle Connor just to like in front, and he just wasn't able to do it. But you still like the opportunities, you still like that they were creating. And the one thing about Mark Scheifele, I know his defense still isn't, he's not winning the Selke, right? He's not Patrice Bergeron. But the reality is, like, you have to give him credit in the sense that like he is back checking a whole heck of a lot now this season. I mean, obviously this is just 10 games, but 10 games isn't insignificant, right? And through the first 10 games
of the year.
Yeah. Through the first 10 games of the season, I mean, you've seen, how many times do we see Mark Scheifele, Drew, covering for his defenseman and covering for the pinching defenseman? And, Rick Bowness says he wants offense from the back end, but that means obviously you have to have guys recognizing that and responding accordingly. And there were a number of instances, whether it was, replacing the defenseman and being in that spot, or even just back checking to ensure that he was there to break up the play. I think that's just an element of his game that seems to be back, kind of like, Mark Scheifele, that playoff run when he was like kind of like a whirling dervish all over the ice. You're kind of getting that back to that Mark Scheifele. And that's one of the things, as we talked about, that if the Jets can have that, they can have an engaged Mark Scheifele who's defensively, relatively speaking, responsible. It's going to go a long way for this Jets club making a playoff run.
My favorite part, one of my favorite parts of the game, you talk about offense from the back end. I'm not sure that Rick Bowness drew it up where you'd have Pierre-Luc Dubois and Blake Wheeler playing the role of defensemen when I believe it was Brendan Dillon and Nate Schmidt had pinched up on the play. And then all of a sudden you look back and the Habs are coming in on the Jets, and it's Wheeler and Dubois who are tasked with making the play to break up any sort of opportunity there, which, to their credit, they did well on. But I'm like, wait a minute, is that Dubois and Wheeler there? It's like everyone sort of did a double take there, seeing what was happening in that situation. It's 2-1 where we're at right now in the Betway game recap, and then it takes the Jets only 41 seconds after Kirby Dach gave the Habs the lead for the Jets to tie it up again. Blake Wheeler, his third of the year, assist to Pierre-Luc Dubois and Dylan Samberg. Good things happen when you go to the net. Good things happen when you shoot the puck. Both of those things were exemplified by this goal, as Wheeler is causing havoc in front of Montembeault. He cannot control the puck cleanly off the Dubois shot, and Wheeler is just there and outmuscles the Habs defenseman really to tuck it in the wide open net, Ezzy.
Yeah, they were just, moving that puck really nicely in the Canadian zone, and it was mentioned by Dan Robertson and Kevin Sawyer on the broadcast. Dylan Samberg broke up a play. Nick Suzuki, it wasn't anything fancy, but I thought Samberg was really good, and he struggled since coming back into the lineup, but I thought maybe tonight was his best game. So just wanted to get that in there. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned Dylan DeMello. They were moving the puck. Samberg and DeMello at the point. Good traffic from Blake Wheeler. Good shot. I actually thought it went in initially. I'm sure a lot of people thought that went in initially, and then Wheeler obviously jumped on the rebound. But again, we're talking about how improved Scheifele has been defensively, and I agree. Look, you have to call a spade here. You have to call it as you see it. And, Scheifele has been better defensively so far. We're only 10 games into the season, but I think there's a lot of good signs. And I saw we had a comment up there. I agree. And Dave kind of this is what Dave was trying to say. He doesn't have to be Patrice Bergeron or, for those who remember Yuri Lettinen, a good defensive forward for the Dallas Stars. You just have to be a good, responsible defensive player because you're the number one center. And yeah, if you're talking about 2017-18 Mark Scheifele, he was a legitimate top 10 center. Let's not forget he was a candidate for the 2022 Olympic team when NHL was going to go, right? So
yeah,
I think that, on this particular goal, this is just a hardworking goal. The Jets were rewarded. And let's be honest, when you score whatever it was, 35 seconds, 40 seconds after, it completely deflates the other team. And that's why I mentioned that. Some games, such as the Vegas game, such as the Jets Arizona game from last year that the Coyotes won 1-0. Most of the time when a team is dominating possession, dominating shots, dominating the flow of the game, they're going to be the team that ultimately scores more goals and wins. And in this particular case, the Jets probably should have been up a goal or two, considering, Kyle Connor hit the post after that really nice pass from Pionk. But yeah, I just love, everything about this goal. It's just a very workmanlike goal.
Yeah, workmanlike goal, workmanlike effort from the Jets, and that's what you need sometimes against a team like Montreal, where fancy isn't going to win the game, for the most part. You just need to sort of outwork them. You have a better team than the Habs do for the most part. I mean, the Jets, of course, are obviously a different team without Nikolai Ehlers, but that third period, I thought, it really exemplified that the Jets, the way they wanted to play, the way that they wanted to win, the way that they were trying to win in regulation, whereas Montreal was just happy to sort of get the game into overtime and earn their 1 point, because Montreal spent that entire third period just doing everything, to prevent the Jets from scoring a goal. And the Jets had plenty of good opportunities, out shooting Montreal 11-4 in that third period. But Montembeault made a number of very nice saves, and the Habs were happy to get the game into overtime, where, of course, at 3-on-3, anything can happen in that situation. And for the Jets, to their credit, they were the better team in overtime at 3-on-3 as well. They outshot Montreal, I believe, 4-1 in the overtime period. They certainly controlled the majority of the play in overtime. And then at the 1:45 mark of the overtime period, mind you, Kyle Connor, his second of the season, we've talked about it. Mark Scheifele gets his first assist on the year. So he's no longer off. He's no longer assistless. And that's not a word, but
Just
anyway.
call him Justin Verlander. No
And
hitter.
there you go. And Josh Morrissey gets his 9th assist of the season, and the Jets do get the victory 3-2 in overtime. 2 points is 2 points. You're happy to get it any way you want, and this isn't a situation where the Jets are apologizing for getting their 2 points. They were the better of the two teams tonight.
Well, I mean, I think that, again, start with the interesting decision. Adam Lowry is the OT starter, and that seems to be Lowry and Appleton. And so seems to like that combination of win the faceoff, and it worked, right? How did the Jets start overtime? They won the faceoff, controlled the play, allowed them to make a line change eventually. I mean, they cycled it fairly well. And then, you have Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele able to do what they do. And those two guys are dynamic, right? I mean, when you have that kind of time and space, we know that there's, again, it'd be hard pressed to find many duos that you'd pick over those two guys in that sort of realm. Of course, got a little guy like Connor McDavid. He's not too bad either, but the reality is Scheifele and Kyle Connor play well together in that sort of realm and that sort of opportunity. So we saw, and the nice thing was the lack of panic, right? And they really did control the puck, not give it up, really allow themselves to set up, not try and force something, right? Because you always think, especially when you force something in overtime, and if it misses the net, you're hooped, right? Because the other team is going the other way with momentum, and you're not. But again, like, one of the things that you want to see from those guys is control, and that's what they were able to do, and they win. And you're right, Ezzy. Like, that was the game that the Jets really deserved to come out with the victory, because they were the better of the two teams. And so you're feeling good. You're feeling better about the game. You're not feeling perfect. It wasn't a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination. And the power play still was not 100%. Obviously Pierre-Luc Dubois' goal was a beauty, but there's still some structural issues, I would suggest, that need to be resolved. But I think that, you're feeling good about the PK. PK was pretty good tonight.
Yeah.
And I think it's another instance where, you have to, like we said, 15, 20 games, which seems like a lot, is probably the benchmark where you're going to be able to see how does this team adapting or adopting Rick Bowness's system. And right now, again, you're 6-3-1. You're not apologizing for the fact that you're sitting first in the Central. You've got Connor, and the truth was, because of the fact that Connor Hellebuyck wasn't really, really taxed, you got to think that they're probably going to use him again on Saturday, I would think, because first of all,
Dave.
He had the day off again. He took off that practice after their travel day on Monday. He practiced yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It was an optional today, right? And so the reality is, they'll practice. They have a practice scheduled tomorrow for noon, and then they have a game at 2:00 on Saturday. So
they also only have 2 games next week, right?
That's what I mean. Yeah. Like, the Dallas game is until Tuesday. So if you're the Jets, you can afford to use Connor Hellebuyck against the Hawks, and then use him again on Tuesday.
That's right. It's a soft part of the schedule. Large against opponents, the soft part in terms of number of games, and you're really only facing 22 shots tonight. So it was a bit of a sleepy day for Connor Hellebuyck, and he looked, most of the opportunities you sort of saw a confident Connor Hellebuyck as well. It wasn't tested a tremendous number of times, but anytime he was tested, I thought he was up to the challenge, Mr. Ginsburg.
Yeah, we talked about the 2 goals. Like, they were not really at all Connor Hellebuyck's fault. And yeah, I thought he was solid. And that's the thing. Like, 3 times this year, the Jets have allowed more than 40 shots. So when you're only allowing whatever it was, 23, 25 shots, something like that, you almost think, oh, this is easy. He doesn't look that great. But, sometimes just being good is good enough, right? And I think, this particular game, you didn't really know what to expect, especially early on in the game. And Montreal's a little bit unpredictable just in terms of the way they play, right? So I think overall, you have to be really happy with this result. You probably didn't want this to have to go to the extra period. You probably would have liked to finish the Habs off in regulation. But yeah, no problem with the way Hellebuyck played. And I agree with Dave. I wouldn't be surprised if Riddick goes in. But I also, if you were asking me who I think is going to play Saturday, I would probably go with Hellebuyck. So just because I said that, probably Riddick is going to play.
Well, I'll tell you what, the best place to find out, of course, about all that information will be Saturday's Illegal Curve Hockey Show, 9 a.m. back here on our YouTube channel. And of course, our website, illegalcurve.com, always has the absolute latest Winnipeg Jets news and any information about the hometown team. Tweet courtesy our friend Joe Pascucci. This was the first win for Rick Bowness as the Winnipeg Jets head coach since April 2nd, 1989. That was 33 years, 7 months, and 2 days ago when the Winnipeg Jets beat the Minnesota North Stars, also by a 3-2 margin. I'm pretty sure, though, they didn't have 3-on-3 overtime back then in 1989. 3-2 victory for the Winnipeg Jets tonight. This has been the Betway game recap brought to you by our friends at Betway. Of course, the title sponsor here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. When we come back, we'll give you the unique code word to enter for the Illegal Curve merchandise contest. We'll talk more about tonight's victory by the Winnipeg Jets. And of course, we'll also pick a Tough Duck hardest hitting comment and give them a toque as well. Don't go anywhere. Much more to come. You want that unique code word for all the bonus entries you're going to get. Dave Minuk is in the top right. Ezra Ginsburg's in the bottom middle. I'm your host, Drew Mendel. This is the Illegal Curve post-game show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Dave, my man, why are you in the car already? It's hours until game time.
Drew, it's because I'm stressed out right now, driving around downtown Winnipeg, looking for a parking spot, and I'm not finding one. I've lost Ginsburg. I don't even know where that guy is right now.
Dave, haven't I taught you anything? Do what I do. Pre-book your entire month's worth of game day parking with the Grid Park app. It's super easy to use and saves me both time and stress.
Well, Drew, I'm not independently wealthy like you are. So I'm sorry that I don't have millions of dollars to pre-book my parking month in advance. What's that going to cost you? $25?
How about $5?
Come on, $5? No way.
$5. I'm not telling you a lie. And our listeners can get a free park with the new special promo code Illegal Curve. Guess what? There's more.
There's more, Drew. You're lying to me. What more could there be?
Grid Park now has underground parking, so my car can stay warm during the game.
So wait a second. All the driving around I do, looking for parking, minus 40. You're telling me I could be toasty warm in a car after the hockey game?
That's exactly what I'm telling you. Underground parking. Just download the Grid Park app. That's GRYD Park and use the code Illegal Curve. All one word. You'll park for free your first time.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. Bottom of the hour. Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg with you on this Thursday evening talking about the Winnipeg Jets, a 3-2 victory over the Montreal Canadiens. Saturday morning, that's our next broadcast after tonight, the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, 9 a.m. back here on our YouTube channel. We're going to be live on location. At least some of us will be there. Dave M., where are we going to be on Saturday morning?
Well, we're going to be at the Winnipeg Ice Fishing Show, of course, at Red River X Place. Runs November 5th and 6th. Doors open at 10 a.m. We'll be there at 9 a.m., of course, because that's when our show on Saturday starts. But it's going to be 2 days of fishing fun for everyone. Everyone. They've got great speakers, contests, entries $10 for adults. Kids 12 and under are free. There's amazing prizes that they're giving away. Illegal Curve's going to have some swag that we're going to be giving away. So come talk to us in our little booth that we're going to have that we'll be doing the show from there. So, we got a little taste for the lives again after being at Canada Life a couple weeks ago, and we're back into it. As we always lied. Our favorite, we had 2 favorites. 2 favorites that I had were I love doing it at the ballpark. At the Gold Eye Stadium. Yeah. We did a show there. That was a lot of fun. And I also always like doing it at Canada at the Iceplex. That was it was a lot of fun usually during the thing. Ezzy, sorry, one thing I should mention though, before we go too far, is Hockey Manitoba probably loved the referees and linesmen today because they were all from Winnipeg.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually going to mention the 100th anniversary back in 2014 when we broadcasted live and talked to Dan O'Toole. We talked to Reggie Leach. I think Andy Murray was another person we talked to.
That's true.
So we were celebrating obviously Manitoba's rich hockey history, and we all remember what was on the table with Dan O'Toole. For those who don't know, just Google that episode because they talked about it on the Jay and Dan podcast. But yeah, on location is always fun. I agree, Dave. When we were in the early days of TSN 1290, we used to broadcast at the Gold Eyes. I think it was the open house or the home opener. That was always fun. Got to talk to Paulie Edmonds back in the day when he was still play-by-play broadcaster for the Gold Eyes. So yeah, we're really looking forward to the Winnipeg Ice Fishing Show. I've got some frozen pickerel in the freezer. Apparently nobody else calls it pickerel, so I should probably call it walleye. But I might
everybody calls it.
It's pickerel north of the border. It's walleye in Minnesota.
Yeah, well, walleye everywhere in the U.S.
Sorry, everywhere in the U.S. Yeah.
Apparently it's not even called pickerel. Is actually a different fish, but that's another time and place.
That's chain pickerel. Come on, us.
Something maybe we can talk about on Saturday.
It's delicious, regardless of what you call it. It tastes unbelievable.
There you go. It does taste unbelievable. Speaking of unbelievable, the amount of merchandise, the amount of great merchandise we give away here on the Illegal Curve post-game show is unbelievable. You've been waiting all evening for it. It's time to unveil the unique code for the IC contest tonight. And you're going to say to yourself, well, Drew, where do I enter the unique code? What do I do with this code? I will explain it to you. A couple different ways you can enter this unique code. First of all, in the show description, if you're watching us live on Facebook or on YouTube or on any of our social media platforms, in the show description, which is underneath the screen, if you're watching on your phone, you might have to X out of the chat and then hit the drop down arrow. You'll see a show description and you'll see a link that talks about how to enter the Illegal Curve contest. Just click that link. It'll come up. You'll see all the different ways you can enter. If that is, for whatever reason, a little too complicated, maybe you're having difficulty finding that, totally understand. We're here to help. Go to illegalcurve.com. click on the morning papers, click on the post-game report, click on basically any link that you see on illegalcurve.com, and you'll also be there. You'll see the link to enter the contest, where again you will enter the unique code for the IC contest for tonight's game, and it is a fitting one. The code is LEBUT, LEBUT, all one word.
That's French for the goal.
It's French for the goal. Thank you, Ezra. I was going to throw
I have a French immersion diploma from Kelvin High School. No big deal.
What I was going to say, I was going to throw it to you to give us the opportunity to demonstrate how you are proficient in Canada's, in both of Canada's national languages. And of course,
Blake Wheeler scored. That was égalité.
Well,
high game.
Very good. Very good. I did not know that you were even going to pull that one out. And of coururse, Dave, your mom is a French teacher.
Retired, but she was a French teacher. Saint Jean Brebeuf.
There you go. Saint Jean Brebeuf. Exactly.
C'est bon.
LEBUT is the unique code for the IC contest tonight. So go to all the links, go to the pages, go to the contest page, go everywhere where we told you, and enter in LEBUT, one word, all caps.
And just remember, just to quickly remind everyone that if you've already entered, you got to enter again when we start a new contest every month. So
every month
it resets everything. But the truth is, the benefit, of course, of that is when the contest, and there's another thing I'm going to say, but when the contest sees that you're entering, it's kind of like a loyalty thing. But if you've entered a third one, then you get 5. Sorry, if you enter your second one, you get 5 points. And if you enter a third one, it's 10 points. So it kind of gives you, there's a benefit to that because you get more entries. And just remember, the contest software can recognize. So if, for example, it says follow Illegal Curve on Twitter, and then you follow us and then you unfollow us, the contest recognizes that. So there's no advantage to doing that. But just remember, I change stuff up almost every single day. So there's something that you can retweet almost every single day. That's going to give you more entries. So there's always, even if you've kind of already followed us on Illegal Curve, you followed us on Twitter, you followed us on YouTube, even though you can't get a point for that, but I'm going to suggest you do that anyways, and leave comments on our podcast. The reality is there's still always going to be ways to enter. So you still want to just don't unfollow and then follow, because there's no advantage, because the software catches that.
By the way, I can't wait to pay $20 a month because IC is verified on Twitter. Thanks, Elon.
I can assure you that the financial advisors to Illegal Curve have said don't pay that amount for having.
We'll be bankrupt in 3 months.
Yeah, it's true. It doesn't take much to bankrupt us, but you're right about that. So there you go. There's the unique code for the IC contest, LEBUT, for tonight. Dave, we have a winner from the last contest.
We do, and it's appropriate that actually he or she, because the name is generic. I'm going to go he, but it's appropriate because they are in the chat every single show we do, but not only are they in the chat every show we do, as soon as Drew sets up all of our show chats, I always go in. I don't know, usually because I have to get the URL for the morning papers, or I get it for the pregame reports, and every single time, and it brings a smile on my face, this person who won, and I know that they're in the chat right now, has a little gold medal for first place, like the first comment. So they're very happy. They put their thing up, and then I generally respond with a silver medal emoji to indicate that we are the second commenter. But that's right, Frosty Winnipeg. Is right. You are, in fact, the winner of today's Illegal Curve contest. Frosty Winnipeg. See, I'm not making it up. It was already in there. So well done, Frosty Winnipeg. We always a fun participant in the Illegal Curve contest, and you've won some authentic Jets merch from Illegal Curve. So congratulations. I will be in touch. And by the way, Retro Winnipeg, I didn't email you yet, but you were the winner of the last contest in the last post-game show. So just so you know, not only do we win authentic gear, as two of our past winners can attest, I dropped off a jersey yesterday. I dropped off a jersey today. So you get a personal delivery from myself, except for our winner in Morden. It's the summer. I probably would have done it. Corn and Apple Festival, I definitely would have done it. but I didn't get a chance to do
Only
that.
like an hour drive, Dave. Come on.
No, I agree, but I just didn't have the opportunity. I would.
He's a busy man, Ezzy.
Are you kidding?
He's a
I would
busy
do that.
man.
Ezzy, I do that drive like no problem. I love that stuff. But anyways,
Dave's
point is-
everywhere, but he's nowhere.
exactly. Anyway, so congrats, Frosty, on the win, and congrats to all of you who are entering, and hopefully you'll also win. We got lots of swag to give away, so just keep entering, submit entries, and hey, another opportunity to win on Saturday.
Exactly. After Saturday, after the Blackhawks and the Jets do battle Saturday afternoon, the illegal.
Oh,
Curve
Rob,
hockey show.
Rob said Frosty. Rob said Frosty. You have to let us know what Dave is like in person. Is he just as cocky as he is in the show?
Wow. Shots fired by Rob.
I have to, Drew, hold on. Drew, I have the question. Are you Rob?
I'm not Rob, because Rob is usually beaking me. So that's the surprise. Usually he gives me the gear. So Rob
doesn't discriminate. Rob will beak anybody.
But...
He was beaking me earlier about the pickerel comment. I can tell you, if you have not met Dave M before, I will guarantee you, he happens to be one of my best friends. I guarantee you he is as nice and as genuine as he is on the show. He's a fantastic person. Doesn't have a mean bone in his body, unless you get on his bad side. You definitely do not want to get on his bad side, but Dave M is the real deal.
What you can't see is Dave has actually got a gun pointed off screen aimed at Ginsburg right now to make him say all those things. Tough Duck, hardest hitting comment, courtesy of our friends at Tough Duck. That's the way you come into the live chat, you make some comments, you get some good insight, or really you do anything that sort of tickles our fancy. You might walk away with with a toque, courtesy of our friends at Tough Duck. Mr. Ginsburg, who is tonight's winner of the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment?
We're going to give it to Chris McFarland. Chris had some really good comments tonight. I'm wearing an IC toque, but obviously, I'll have a Tough Duck toque on at some point because winter is fast approaching, boys. It's not going to be very long.
As Dave and I were leaving the arena, tonight after to come home for the post-game show, going to the game, it was quite pleasant. It was definitely a north wind on the way out after the game tonight.
Yeah, it's getting cold at night and in the morning. You've got the comment up there, Drew, so I'll read it. Jets are going to get there. They're buying in and finding success when they play the Bones way. Building blocks are being laid down. Already better than any game last year and most in the one before. Like that comment. I mean, we criticized the Jets for how they played against LA and Vegas on the road, but this was as complete a game, I think, as you're going to get, considering that there were a few days between games, right? So it wasn't perfect, and you'd like to bury one or two more chances on the power play. But for the most part, I mean, the Jets were clearly the better team against the Canadiens. They could have easily put in 4 or 5 goals past Montembeault. He was incredible, including on that Scheifele chance in overtime. So, Chris, send me an email, Ezra@illegalcurve.com. Slide into my DMs at ICSEG, and Tough Duck will send you a beautiful toque in the mail.
There you go. Congratulations to Chris, the winner of tonight's Tough Duck hardest hitting comment. Your next chance to win, of course, comes Saturday after the Jets and the Blackhawks. Post-game show Saturday afternoon, right around 4:45 p.m., given that it's a matinee on Saturday. So
does Chris have a fish there? Is he holding up a fish in his picture? Looks like
a walleye. It could be a jack.
Yeah.
It might be a pickerel, though. Is it a pickerel or is it a walleye? Well, obviously, have to.
I mean, it's weird though because you hear pickerel in Manitoba. I don't know, like if it's just a Manitoba kind of Ontario thing, but I mean, it's definitely walleye, and it doesn't matter. I mean, fishing is fishing. I'm hoping to catch a sturgeon this year myself.
Oh, there you go. We all have goals in life, and I'm glad that you've set one of catching a sturgeon this year. I'm sure maybe being a better father, a better husband might have been somewhere up there. But
Drew, I'm a very amateur fisherman. I caught a 24.5-inch pickerel / walleye in Quesnel Lake. What was that, 5 or 6 years ago? And I thought I was like Bob Azumi. Like I thought I was a master angler. Obviously, it was complete luck, but got really into fishing, especially being out in the Eastman, Lac de Bonnie, Bird River area. So I have no idea what I'm doing. Dave M is the master angler of Illegal Curve, but I love learning, love watching other people. I don't know if you guys have caught that show River Monsters. Maybe we'll get that going in the chat. If you haven't seen River Monsters, check that out. I actually think he did an episode in Lake of the Woods, if I'm not mistaken, Dave, with muskies, right? So
I think you're right. Actually,
fishing's awesome.
There you guys go. I did not know that. Here's a comment from Kyle Connor after all the chances and eventually getting the OT winner. Kyle Connor on his goal. I think I tried going high glove on Sam Montembeault like 7 times today, so I changed it up there on hoping that the dam bursts now. Quote, sometimes it comes in bunches, so I'm just going to keep playing, keep trying to improve and get better every game. Hopefully can get on a little stretch here. Here's Rick Bonus on Kyle Connor. There are times you want the right guy to get the puck at the right time in the right spot, and it was coming to him a lot tonight. It was one of those. It wasn't going in, and he couldn't pick a better time to score. All those comments courtesy of Scott Billick on his Twitter feed. Winnipeg Jets 3-2 victors tonight over the Montreal Canadiens. Next in action Saturday afternoon against the Chicago Blackhawks, the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, 9 a.m. on Saturday, the Illegal Curve post-game show, 4:45 p.m. On Saturday afternoon. After
you have to name those 5 moose now, Dave.
No, I had verification that there were a number of moose, as I thought, to see Johnny Kovacevic in his Montreal debut here in Winnipeg, and I was told
that was awesome, by the way, just to see him on the ice playing for the Canadiens. I know, Dave, you developed a personal relationship with him. Just awesome. I mean, nobody says anything bad about him, so just great that he's playing NHL games, even though it would have been nice if it was for the Jets. Yeah, no, there are a lot of guys here to the coaching staff, the players. I mean, he was a well-liked guy. He was one of the leaders in the room. So, good for him. He's gotten the opportunity in Montreal. I mean, I read an article from our friend Mark Dumont. He wrote an excellent article talking about how much, Kovacevic has meant to that team. And look, they're a young and up-and-coming team, but he's, earned second pairing minutes, playing 17, 18 minutes. I think he played 20 minutes the other night in Minnesota. So he's feeling good about himself, and he's getting an opportunity, which, he wasn't getting here in Winnipeg. And now, he's getting that in Montreal. So there you go. And he threw Lisa's son a puck.
Yeah,
a puck.
Exactly.
There you go. That's very nice of him, of course. And yes, exactly. Nice to see him back on the ice here in downtown Winnipeg. As I was saying, Saturday afternoon, post-game show 4:45, the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, 9 a.m. on Saturday. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, leave us feedback both on the YouTube channel and wherever you get your edition of the podcast. We always appreciate hearing from you, what you liked about the show, what you disliked about the show, which one of us you like best. We have our own personal power rankings that we like to keep track of, so you can let us know which one of us you like best and why I'm always
We're a monolith, Drew.
We're a monolith?
Yeah.
We're something. All right, Mr.
I was just going to say, we're something.
Yeah, we're something. I'm not sure it's a monolith, but we're definitely something. Big thanks to everybody for joining us. Big thank you, of course, to all of our sponsors who make the Illegal Curve post-game show, who make the website, who make the Illegal Curve Hockey Show a possibility. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Betway. They're the title sponsor of this fine program. Tough Duck, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, Rolly's Transfer, Grid Park, and The Keg support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. If you know of a business, or if you are a business and you think that you should become a sponsor of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show or any of our fine entities, by all means, send one of us an email, slide into our DMs, whatever it might be. We'll be glad to send you all sorts of information about why you should join up with Illegal Curve. Big thanks to everybody for joining us. Thanks to the chat for always being so much fun. For Dave Manouk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Until Saturday at 9 a.m., we wish you good night and good luck, and thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.